mukbang. I don't know.
I say mukbang, but
I think it's mukbang.
yeah.
What even is a mukbang? I think that's not derived from.
I think it's Korean. Correct me.
How did you prepare for interviews with only experience as a student teacher? She interviewed at a school, got the job. 2 weeks later, I got a call from the same principal, and
We
she
were
asked
so
me.
shocked.
She asked me if I wanted to interview. I was so excited. I called her. I was like, Kathy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Madison Campbell. I am a first year second grade teacher. This is my friend Kathy with me today. She is a first year fifth grade teacher. We are teaching at the same school and I'm so excited. Today we're going to be filming a mukbang or a mukbang,
Yeah, mukbang.
whatever you call it. And so we got Taco Bell.
Yay.
What else? And so we're just going to be filming a first year teacher Q&A. If you guys have been following along with me, you know that I taught for a half year from January to May in second grade. So I have a little bit different experience. She's going in for her first full year in August. But we'll definitely have a lot to talk about. We have some questions that we asked you guys on Instagram, so we'll pull those up while we eat. But yeah, let's just dive into it. Yeah, let's keep it chill. So yeah, like I said, we live in the same city and we became friends like in January when I moved here. And I had been working at a school in the district here. I knew that I was going to be leaving my school. She interviewed at a school, got the job. 2 weeks later, I got a call from the same principal, and she asked me. She asked me if I wanted to interview. I was so excited. I called her. I was like, Kathy, they want me to interview.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed for it, got the job. So now we are going to be teaching at the same school.
Like we were so surprised, and we're actually like just so happy that we actually got to teach the same school.
Because we were best friends before that. So like being able to teach at the school with your best friend is gonna be so fun. Anyway, so we had some Taco Bell.
Guys, I'm so hungry. I waited like all afternoon for this.
I don't know. I'm actually pretty hungry. I wasn't hungry when we got it, but I'm like, I can eat.
Yes.
So I guess we'll go through and say what we got. Some classic mukbang style. Do you guys say mukbang or mukbang? I don't know.
I say mukbang, but
I think it's mukbang.
yeah.
What even is a mukbang? I think that's not derived.
I think it's Korean. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's a Korean thing. I
know.
don't know. We just like watching.
We just want to eat. Okay, so we got a lot going on.
Okay.
I got. This is the grilled cheese. I'm so excited. Okay, so.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
I
Let's
just
see.
got so excited. I saw a commercial for a grilled cheese griller.
Oh my gosh. There's just straight up cheese right on top.
It's being so excited.
Okay.
That's so funny.
I got a Mexican pizza. I love Mexican pizza without tomatoes. I'm not a tomato person, but so good.
Okay, I got. Wait, I'm like forgetting what I got. What is happening? Okay. Oh, I got a cheesy potato griller. Those are so good. And then a shredded chicken burrito.
Yes. I got a quesadilla, OG quesadilla, and then my favorite chicken gordita crunch. So. Yes.
So pretty much we're just gonna go hard and eat. Oh, I also got some fiesta potatoes.
We're just gonna go
So
hard.
we can go hard and eat and answer some questions for you guys. Yeah, like I said, we asked on Instagram for you guys to ask us questions. So these are all questions that you guys sent in yesterday. Oh no, I don't have a fork.
Okay, so we have the questions pulled up. So thank you guys for sending these in. I'm really excited to answer some just because I don't really have much experience with actually teaching. I did student teaching, but that was cut short obviously because of COVID-19. But I'm just really excited and just really positive about what's gonna happen next. So
yeah. Oh, and Kathy has an Instagram also, so I'll link her Instagram below. It's Mrs. Kellogg's Bunch. Right?
yes, Miss Kellogg's Bunch.
Mrs. Kellogg's Bunch. So go follow her.
Yeah. Okay, so the first question is from Lacey Holman. Should we say names or? Okay, Lacey Holman, thank you for asking. Where to start with prepping for the year and how to plan for routines and procedures?
Yeah, this is a big one. So I would say when it comes to like how to start prepping for the year, I don't know. I say this, but I do it. I'm like, don't go crazy buying everything, but I'm over here like buying everything. but like everybody says that, but they're out doing it. But definitely be careful, because I went into my first year teaching, like I bought everything. I went in and half the stuff I bought was already in the classroom. Like I was buying like pocket charts and all these things that were already there. So I don't know, just be careful. And you can even just ask your principal or some administration of the building that you have contact with, just maybe ask them like, hey, is there a bookshelf in there that I need to buy? I don't know, like you can always reach out and ask them. So like when it comes to prepping, I would do more organizational prepping. Like that's at least what I've been doing this summer. Just make sure you're organized. And like she said in the question, what about like routines and procedures? Definitely have those down. At least it's gonna change throughout the year. At least have the first week down. Like know what kind of routines and procedures you're gonna have down.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I was gonna say, I do everything on Google Drive, Google Drive. And so I made like a ginormous list, and so I keep thinking to myself, okay, what are the things that I saw on the first day whenever I was student teaching in my host classroom? So things like routines and procedures, like breakfast, how are the kids gonna come in, how are you gonna do morning meeting, things like that. So just things like that you need to think about, because I always think about the future. Okay, what are some things that are going to be important, and what do the kids need to know before I say anything myself? And so I just made a ginormous list, and then even if it's small things, just think about it. So then whenever it does come and you're thinking about where do you want students to line up for specials or whatever, just think about those small things, because they're going to make a huge difference in your classroom management and just things like that, and just how to prepare.
And you can look up like lists. Like I remember before I started, I think on Pinterest I saw this list, and it was like routines and procedures to start thinking about implementing in your classroom. And it seems kind of overwhelming, but it's really important. And so just like she said, like little things like lining up, and just how, like maybe a callback, like how are you going to get them to respond, or how are you going to get the class to quiet down. Those things will come in handy, especially during like the first week of school.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then obviously it's going to be trial and error, and you're going to have experiences, what works for your classroom, what works for that year, things like that. And obviously, I would say if you could reach out to any teachers that you know of, or anybody that's on your team, just ask them like, hey, what's your behavior management plans, things like that, just because they'll know a lot more, and then you don't have to think about, oh, what am I going to do? There might be already something in place. So yeah, just think about everything that you can and look up those lists. Yeah, just think about it all. So the second question comes from Kate D28, and she says, what was your interview process like? Any tips? So my interview process, I got done student teaching this May. I just graduated, so everything happened super fast. I kind of wasn't super stressed about a teaching position, just because, I don't know, like everything happened so quickly that it almost seemed like I wasn't ready to have a position yet. It just felt like, oh my gosh, I just graduated and
like she didn't have time. I feel like you weren't stressed out. I feel like because you didn't have time to stress out, and she was lucky enough to just get a job right away.
I was just and I knew that I wanted to stay in Columbia, and that's where we're teaching right now. I only wanted to apply for one district. But before interviewing, things like that, I went to a bunch of like hiring or job fairs, so I went to a bunch of job fairs, and then I kind of got a little bit of practice there, but it wasn't anything crazy. But especially for me, what I did was I had to be super prepared, so I actually went on YouTube and looked up teacher interview questions, and then I also Googled it.
Plug, I have a teacher interview prep questions that I just uploaded my channel, so check that out.
But basically I just went on Google Drive again, and then I just copy and pasted all the questions that I thought people would ask or that I should know that were important for an interview, and then literally I just went in there, answered all the questions, like just typing it out, and then I rehearsed it in my head, or like rehearsed it with my husband, so that was really helpful.
So with me, I had my teaching position January through May. I decided to go to a different school, so I started interviewing, I think probably around March or April when I got my first interview, and I went through a few. So I had, I think, 3 interviews. I had an interview for a first grade position at a different school, an interview for a third grade position at a different school, and then I had my interview for this second grade position that I ended up accepting, and all of them were through Zoom because they all had to be virtual. So, interviewing online is definitely a little tricky. Another plug, I just uploaded a video of virtual interview teaching tips, so just go check that out. It's just like everything that I did to prepare, and just things to keep in mind whenever you're interviewing. But just don't overthink it, don't stress too much. you know, you'll end up where you're supposed to be. I get people messaging me all the time, like, what should I do? Like, I'm stressing out. It's like, you know what, you'll always end up exactly where you're meant to be. I had quite a few no's before I finally got a yes, and that's okay. Don't let it get you down. Just keep going, keep applying, and keep interviewing.
Yeah.
Smiling through second. Oh, hey girl. How to set boundaries between school and social life. This is huge too, and it's just something you kind of learn along the way. It's kind of overwhelming at first when you start teaching because you realize how much there is to do and how much is on your plate, and so it's definitely overwhelming, but just take it one day at a time. And what I did for me personally that worked my first year was I picked 2 days of the week that I would stay after, and I wouldn't even stay super late. I would stay an hour, 2 hours just to print, make copies, whatever I needed for that week. And then Sunday night I would usually do a little planning, but I would not stay every single night. Some days I would literally just have to make myself leave right as we got out at 3:30, and we'd go to the gym to go at 3:30, and I literally would like not even look around the room, because if you like start looking around the room, you start looking at all the papers
There
you
for
need to
hours.
write. Yeah, we were there so long. So just get out of there. Some nights you literally just have to even leave the room a mess, just leave, otherwise you'll be there way later than you need to be.
Yeah. And since I've only been doing student teaching, my teacher and I actually would stay an hour after school. So we got out at 2:30, but we would stay until about 3:30, planning, you know, for the next day, planning for the next week. But like she said, just make sure that, I mean, for the first few weeks, I feel like it's totally normal to, you know, be super busy and stay after school because you're thinking about a lot and doing a lot. But after you get into that routine, just set those days where you want to just make time for yourself and just not worry about it. And then I think you'll be good. Just make sure that you have that plan going for you.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you'll kind of like learn along the way. And obviously your first year in the first probably month, I would say, you'll be staying after a little bit later. Don't get hard on yourself. Just, you know, stay when you want to stay. If you're getting burnt out, just leave, you know, like it'll all be there the next day, so handle it then. But yeah, you'll kind of get the hang of it, and you'll start realizing like a schedule that works for you and keeps you sane. But just remember, like, work isn't everything. It's not your whole life. You have a life outside of work, so, you know, keep those relationships and, you know, just hang out with people and
Put yourself first.
Yeah, put yourself first.
Yes. Miss Bluthen, hey girl. She asked, what should I prepare for over the summer curriculum-wise?
Wow.
So I was gonna answer that, but I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I get a lot of my advice and like tips from my host teacher. So I feel like there's not that much you can do curriculum-wise, but I would say like if you have your books or if you know the premise of what your curriculum's gonna be, like look it up, look up YouTube videos, like what is it about, what are some things that, you know, will help you with that curriculum, because some of them you may not agree with, but that's what the school is using. So I would say just do some research on it and make sure you're familiar with it.
I'm still learning this too. I think after a first full year teaching, next summer I'll be more in my game of like planning for curriculum, and plus you'll have all those copies from your first year. Like right now, we're kind of starting kind of from a blank slate. I've seen a lot of first year teachers kind of make different organizational techniques for keeping like standards. Like, have you seen those like milk crates with like file folders, and they keep all the standards that align with, you know, whether you're Common Core or like a state standard, and then they start filling it in with like different worksheets for those standards. Personally, if I do that, I'll like way over plan and I probably won't end up using half this stuff. So I'd rather wait till I teach a full year, see what I'm going to use.
Good idea.
And then next summer I'll go in and kind of organize with like file folders, like what did I end up using, what did I like? Because there's a lot of stuff you'll use and you're like, I'm not using that next year, you know? So I don't know. Ask us again next year and we might have a better answer.
We know a little bit more. But favorite part about teaching?
So much. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Favorite part about teaching, so yeah, like she said, there's so much, but just starting off with those relationships with the kiddos is my main thing. Like, before I even started student teaching, I honestly did not realize that those relationships are everything. They're gonna listen to you, they're gonna respect you because of those relationships. If you don't have that with them, and if you're not trying to create those bonds with them, it's not the same. It's not gonna be there. So I would say that is a huge thing, just because then you start getting really comfortable with them, and they're comfortable with you, and you just see that wall break down with them.
Like build that classroom community.
Yeah, and it's just Right. And then everybody kind of follows along, and it's just an amazing way to just build a really good environment in the classroom. So that's one of them.
Yeah. And I would say also, I mean, I love kids, obviously, and so that's a huge part of it. But I think just the job in general is just like right up my alley. And I talked about this before. I feel like you definitely have to have a certain personality type to enjoy teaching.
Yes.
The organization, the planning, the multitasking, all of that stuff. I mean, I love that stuff. So for me, it's like right up my alley.
Yeah, same. Like I love decorating. I love planning things, and so.
Yeah. And obviously, like that's not all of it. And obviously, the heart of teaching is actually teaching and connecting with students. Those light bulb moments. But when people ask me what do I like about the job, those are some things that I say, because realistically there's a lot of that too, of the multitasking and the planning and organizing, and you have a lot on your plate at all times, so you have to definitely know how to handle multiple things coming at you at once. So yeah, those are just some things that I like about teaching.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, what I really like about teaching too is it's like a huge challenge. I mean, like she said, there's so many things that you have to balance, and I love having a challenge. Like, yeah, you're gonna have some really bad days and you're gonna have some really good days, but when you look back, everything is just, you're growing from those experiences. Like, you can look back, that's why I made an Instagram, like, you'll look back on your very first day of teaching, or even when you were a student teaching, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, like, I grew so much in that short amount of time.
And every day is different. That's what I love about it, because literally every single day is different. I mean, some days are good, some days are bad, but you never know what you're gonna get, and so I love that because it keeps it exciting. Yeah. So it's a hard job, but you know, it's worth it.
Definitely worth it. What is your favorite subject to teach?
So I always say my favorite subject to teach is reading, but I am starting to like teaching math a little bit more, because when I went into teaching, everyone told me that I was gonna love teaching math because it's my worst subject. And I was like, no, I'm gonna hate teaching math.
Yeah.
Because I've always been bad at it, so I always like dread anything that has to do with math. But they were right. I started teaching math, and I think because I can like empathize with the kids that are struggling, I love teaching it. So they were right. So I would say like reading and math are like time.
I was gonna say the same thing. I love reading. I love teaching reading because we got to meet with small groups, and you just get to see the individual like learners actually grow. I don't know, like it's just so very different when you get to meet with individuals and as a group. And I feel like whenever I was teaching reading when I was student teaching, it was very like straightforward. The curriculum was really awesome. It was benchmark that we used. And so everything was kind of in there. It was like reading, writing, social studies. So it kind of was like an all over subject instead of just teaching reading. So I really like that about reading mostly.
Yeah. And like with primary for me, seeing kids like learn to read, there's nothing like it. I always heard teachers say that, but there's really nothing like it.
So true.
Especially when they're struggling at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year they're just like smooth sailing, reading on their own. It's just the best feeling.
Yeah. So, and I feel like reading starts with everything, and so once they pick up that book and they enjoy it, like you have them hooked already. So I feel like that's so important. Just get them excited about reading, even if it's just reading a few sentences a day. Like who cares? Like they're reading, and we just have to be like,
keep motivated.
Okay, so the next question is, what would you purchase from your classroom while you're still studying?
Books, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I said before, be careful on buying like big things like furniture and I don't know. I mean, obviously you can buy decorations and stuff because you know you'll use that, but just be careful if you're buying like more expensive things. Check with the school first to see if they already have it in the classroom. But definitely you can buy books, especially if you know what grade you're going to teach. You can stock up on those grade level books. Even if you don't know what grade level you're going to teach, because before I knew, I just stocked up on like every level, because even though I teach second, I keep like kindergarten level books, I keep chapter books in my library just so kids can have a bunch of like different options to read. And I know with you too, like she's teaching 5th grade, and I'm sure she has, you know, you have picture books and chapter books, you know?
Yeah. Like she said, books are a huge thing. Like they're going to be in the classroom a lot this year, I just noticed, because of COVID and everything, and I just want to make sure that there's enough books for them. So I went to Facebook Marketplace right away, and then this girl, like literally when I clicked on it, she was like selling books, selling 300 books for like $100, and like she sold some other stuff with it, and I was like, are these 5th grade level books? And like I just saw that there was just a bunch of chapter books, so I was like, I have to get these now, because I mean, of course I could just go to Goodwill and like all those places and just like start building, but I just knew like right here this was a good deal, so I was like, I have to get these now. I have a bunch of stuff, so I can't even think
I mean,
about
yeah,
one
we
thing.
like spend so much money in our classroom. We're like, just books. And
Yeah.
over here we have like a room in our house full.
It's like all decor and
crap.
stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of things. And like I would say check TPT, check Google, just be like, what are the main things that you need as a teacher, and then just build off those ideas, and then you'll be thinking about plenty of things once you look those things up. So don't feel like you have to rush into it yet, you know?
Yeah, because after your first week of teaching, I think you'll also realize things that you need versus a lot of stuff that you bought was just like want. So maybe wait a little bit too, so you have been teaching
That's
for
a
a
good
week,
tip.
and you can add stuff in your classroom.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, next question is from Ken Brown. If teaching wasn't your profession, what would you go into career-wise? That's a really good question.
Yeah, I love that question because before teaching, I had a few different options, but I was like so worried about what other people would say, like especially my parents. I didn't think that they would like that I was a teacher just because it's not like the highest paying job. And they have, my dad has high expectations of me, so I was like so nervous to tell him that I wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
But once I knew, I was like, there's nothing holding me back. Like, this is the job for me. But before that, I was like 100% drawn to counseling. Like, I love counseling. I love psychology. And that's why I was like, I really want to do this, help other kids, but still, like, I wouldn't have a classroom or anything. And then something just, like, changed my mind. And, yeah, but counseling was definitely, like, at the top of the list for sure. How about you?
I always knew I wanted to do, like, a service job, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to, like, do something with people, to, like, help people. I mean, nursing was high up on my list, but I just didn't want to go to nursing school.
That's actually one of my options, too.
So, honestly, I don't really know that, like, I was in business, and I hated that, so I knew that was, like, off the table. And then I went to teaching, and I never looked back, so I really don't know what I would do. Sometimes I wonder if I'm not in the classroom, maybe I could be like a reading specialist or an intervention teacher or something like that, just to be more like hands-on with the kids. But I don't know, honestly, like it's kind of a hard question for me because I went into teaching and I never looked back, and that's all I've ever thought that I would do.
Yeah.
So,
and I was just gonna say, like, I don't know, like I thought I had to have everything figured out, like while I was in college, but I just started taking general education courses, and I think after that I just kind of talked to people, and I took some classes that just kind of reminded me of why I love teaching. Like as a kid I was always like playing, teacher and stuff like that, and I think I just looked back at my childhood and I was like, you know what? I've always looked up to my teachers, and I want other kids to do the same. So I think that's how I kind of like made my final decision.
yeah. Okay. What is the hardest interview question that you've got?
Oh my gosh. Literally when I was done with my interview, I texted Madison every single question. I texted Madison every single question in the interview process. I was like, girl, you need to have a heads up. And like a lot of the questions that they asked us were the questions that I like looked up on Google and looked up on YouTube. So I was like, this was so worth it. Like I would say, if anything, if you're looking for interview questions, practice with someone else. Like, of course you can say it in your head and think about it, but when you do it with someone else,
Like say it out loud.
exactly, you can hear it yourself. The other person can give you pointers. Like even do it with multiple people, not just people you're close with. So then they can give you other advice that you wouldn't think of. But hardest interview question.
I mean, everyone knows the worst interview question is when they ask, like, what are your biggest flaws? Like, I can't remember which interview it was that I got asked, but they said, if we called your principal from my last job, what would they say is the number one thing you need to work on? And I was just like, oh my gosh, I like, did not know what to say. But I think I just said, for me, I was like, I need to work on my confidence as a first-year teacher, something along those lines, but that question's always hard.
Yeah, I remember when I wrote that down and I answered it, I was like thinking, okay, the biggest thing that I was taught was like, if it's a really hard question, just like think about something that, I don't know, that you can actually find in yourself, that you know is an actual flaw. Just like, you know what I did? I literally went to Google and I was like, I looked up like weaknesses and I was like, okay, which one do I fit under? And then that's when I was like, okay, this one sounds like me. Like maybe one of them is like, you're too much of a perfectionist or something. Like what could be positive coming out of that? If like you're in an interview and you say something about a weakness, you need to counteract
Like turn it into a positive.
Yeah, turn it into a positive and make sure that you say something that you learned from or that you grew from. And then they know that, you know what, even though she has this weakness or this flaw, like she can always look towards the positive side. So I don't really know like a hard question because I practice so many, but a lot of them, the curriculum-wise, I was
gonna say curriculum questions are hard,
Mhm.
especially if you haven't taught before and they ask you questions about different curriculum. I know the questions like sometimes stress me out when they ask like, what would I see if I walked into your classroom during reading or writing or science or whatever? Because even though I don't know, like you know what you're gonna do in the classroom, it's hard to like explain it in a way. I don't know. That one like stresses me out when they ask me like, what would I see during reading? I'm like, like there's so much in my head. I'm like, I'm reading so much. Like, how do I explain it in like the most like easy to understand way?
Exactly.
So that question. So be prepared to answer that. They'll probably ask like, what would I see in your classroom? And they'll probably say like during all like different subjects, reading, writing, science, whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think the main thing with interviews is just be yourself, be positive, and practice. And if you don't know a question, just be like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't know that one yet.
Yeah.
Or just try to answer to your best ability. Like as long as you try, I feel like they definitely recognize that. So.
Someone asked, what grades would you want to teach? So I really like this one, especially for our case. So
I feel like we've talked about this so many different times.
But
you can tell the story.
Yeah. So what's funny about us is I student taught in 5th grade, and I always thought I would teach like upper elementary. I mean, ever since I got in education, I thought I'd teach upper elementary, but I did have a practicum experience where I loved 2nd grade and the littles, so I was open to teaching younger grades, but I student taught with 5th. I was kind of hoping to get a job in 5th, and I ended up getting my first job in 2nd grade, and now I'm in 2nd grade again. And with Kathy, she student taught in 2nd grade and was hoping to get a job in 2nd grade, and she ended up getting a job with 5th grade. Yeah. So it's funny, we always talk about like, we need to switch. I know. And like everyone always asks us like, why don't you guys just switch? But I'm like, well, we both like our grades that we have.
Yeah, we love it, but it's just, we were not expecting it. Like I was like, wait, 5th grade? Like I didn't even think about teaching 5th grade at all, because I was like, I barely got any student teaching experience in 5th grade, so I was like, they're not gonna say 5th grade, and then all of a sudden they're like, we're offering you a 5th grade job. And I was like, Madison, you'll love this, but.
I know, but I don't know, like I'm excited because when I left this year off, I mean, I came in mid-year, then COVID-19 happened, we couldn't even teach online really, and so I didn't get to teach 2nd grade really, you know, like it was mainly just, I came in mid-year and it was more like procedures and like behaviors and stuff.
Like the first few months of school.
Yeah, that's what it was like. So I'm excited to actually be able to teach from the beginning of the year and experience 2nd grade, and obviously, you know, you can always like change grades, but like we're both excited to kind of take on these different grades than we like expected we'd be teaching.
Exactly.
You know, and then who knows, maybe we can switch.
Yeah. Like
next year we'll just like swap classrooms.
Yeah.
It'll be funny.
But my ideal grade, like if I were to think like, oh my gosh, what's my perfect grade? I would honestly say I love 3rd grade because it's a step up from 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And it's just the in-between grade. So I feel like it's the best of both worlds. So I would try 3rd grade.
Honestly, I was gonna say that too. Like I've always dreamt of teaching 3rd grade because I feel like it's like that perfect in-between. But I don't know, I've only been in like a classroom once for 3rd grade. I didn't like student teach or anything with 3rd grade. So, but I definitely like think I would like it.
Yeah, they're just so mature, and I mean they start having those conversations with you, and yeah, they're just a little bit more mature than 2nd grade. But I love all the grades. I feel like we both do.
Yeah, we're pretty open to teaching like whatever. Here's a good one. Do you feel anxiety about being a 1st-year teacher?
I definitely do. Like, I get anxious about anything, honestly, but now this is like, I kept telling my husband, Brandon, I was like, this is a real job now. Like, I used to have just small jobs, like everyday, daily jobs that don't require like too much, but this is my first real job, so I was like, oh my gosh, like this is legit. And so of course I have anxiety over it, just meeting new people, meeting my new classroom, knowing what to do. Like I know I'm not gonna be able to figure everything out in the first year. Like that's just so hard. So just the unknown of it all is like, oh my gosh, what do I do next? What do I do? Like, I'll definitely learn from a lot, but right now it's just like, there's just so much to think about, and there's gonna be a lot of information thrown at you like very first few weeks and stuff. So I'm just gonna have to soak it all in and just take it one day at a time.
Yeah, take it one day at a time. Yeah, I definitely have anxieties too. I think a lot of mine are centered more around like COVID-19 because we have a lot of unknowns this year, and just like how different is the classroom going to be? Because in my head, I think we all do, like have a picture of what it's gonna be like. And now it's probably gonna be a lot different, just with like social distancing and all that,
strict and stuff,
and having to wear a mask.
Yeah.
So I'm just a little nervous for that. I'm trying not to get like my expectations too high because I don't want to be disappointed when they say that we can't do a lot of the things that we want to. I don't know. I have anxiety about my anxiety, so yeah. The answer is yes, we do have anxiety about first year teaching.
And it's perfectly normal. Just reach out to people.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have that support system. If you don't, get those people on your team because you need someone to talk to. You need someone to help you out. Like, don't feel like you have to do it alone.
Each other,
Like, I'm gonna be texting her every single day.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know. We stop by each other's classrooms like, hey, how you doing? I can't wait. Oh, here's a good question, especially for you.
Okay.
How did you prepare for interviews with only experience as a student teacher? You know, so like, because my interviews these past like March and April when I had my interviews, I talked all about my experience as a first year teacher, second grade. But for you, they probably were asking questions you had really just like only your student teaching experience, you know?
Yeah. A big tip that I got while I was student teaching was when you're in an interview, you need to make sure that you own whatever you're saying. So if they're asking you, so how did you teach reading or whatever? And so because my time got cut short, like I still taught reading, I still taught math, and I taught all the subjects and stuff. They were just for a short amount of time. And so whenever I was going through my interview process, I was like, I have to answer these questions like they're my ideas, like they're my experiences. I can't just say, oh, well, my host teacher did this, this, and this. And they're going to say, well, that's your host teacher, not you. So just make sure that, you know, you build from your experiences. Like, even if you didn't teach all of reading or whatever, build on or talk about those things that you actually did do. And then they'll definitely, like, notice those things.
Yeah, that's huge. Don't ever say my co-teacher or host teacher did this, or even we. Say I.
Yeah.
Like, act like it was your classroom, even if it was your co-teacher's idea. Say it was your idea. Like, say you did it. Just talk about it all like it was you in the classroom, you teaching. It was your ideas. They don't care what your co-teacher did. Like, they care what you did and how you implemented things. So that's a really good one. Definitely, like, take ownership of everything that you did during student teaching.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, the people who are interviewing you, they're not like, whoa, she's experienced teacher. Like, they know that you just graduated. They know that you just did student teaching. So they're not clueless to that. Just own up to it, be confident, and yeah.
Guys, we're literally like in the food coma right now.
We had to take a little break.
Yeah. We just like hit a wall.
Yeah. We're so full.
I like can't even finish this.
This will be for later.
I don't know why. I'm just like so full right now. I'll like save it for later.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. We have one more question. Okay, so last question is, what is the hardest part about being a first year teacher, or what do you expect will be the hardest part about being a first year teacher?
I would just say, because of my student teaching and that it got cut short, I know I keep saying that, but I never got to do my extensive weeks where I was in the classroom alone. I mean, my teacher was definitely really awesome where she let me be independent. Like, she would leave the classroom all the time, so I definitely had times where I was alone.
Yeah.
But just doing every single thing alone now is like super hard. Like, I know I can lean on other teachers and stuff, but like, you know, she would take attendance and, you know, she would teach math whenever I was planning for reading or something. So now it's like you're all on your own. But I think that's why we were saying earlier, like, organization and everything like that is super important, because you need to know, okay, what's next, what do I need to do. So just make sure you're on top of things, and yeah, just making sure that you stay connected with people around you. I think that's gonna really help me, just because I know that I don't want to do this alone. I know that I need people whenever it's my first year doing something this big, you know?
Yeah. I would say my biggest challenge would probably be like time management, just because as like a first full year teaching, I know I'm gonna be wanting to stay after like all the time.
Yes.
And I know teacher burnout is huge your first year, because you are staying after so
You're
much.
like going all the time.
Yeah, and I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to burn out my first year teaching, so I want to be really mindful of that and make sure that I'm doing a lot of things outside of school and that I'm taking care of myself mentally and physically. Like, I'm not just like only doing like school things 24/7, because I know myself and I'll get so burned out. So obviously, like, that'll be a challenge. I think, again, with COVID-19, all of that stuff is going to be a huge challenge. Like, I don't know. It's just because we don't even know.
Exactly.
Like, if we're gonna be able to do small groups,
right?
Like, if we can only do whole group teaching, how's that gonna work? Like, kids can't even work together. You know, like, that stresses me out to think about.
I feel like our room is too small for every single kid. Even if there were a few people that were gone, like, I don't know, it's just gonna be different
like,
because it's our first year. And it's
yeah.
like, it doesn't feel like the real first year yet.
Yeah,
You know?
and I know like a lot of things I enjoy doing in the classroom might not be able to do. And I do a lot of small group stuff in the back where I have kids at a table, so if I can't have them at the table, if you can't have kids on the carpet, I don't know, stuff like that is gonna be really challenging.
I think we're just gonna have to make sure that we're open-minded. I think a lot of our principals, our admins, all the people, you know, in your district, they're the ones that are doing this for our health, our safety, the kids' safety, people at home. So it's like, right now we just have to, stay positive and just kind of go with the flow for now, because it's not like we can just change things up if we want to. It's a very different year, different time, so.
We have to make sure we stay positive for the kids too. I've been seeing so much negativity around, and obviously like, I understand like we need to vent and we need to be like, oh, like I'm stressed about this, but you can't do that in the classroom. You cannot let the kids see you stressing about COVID and all the restrictions they're placing, because that will stress them out, and it's already going to be such a different year for them. I know if I was a kid coming into the school year, I'd be scared.
Like, what's going to happen?
Like I'd be scared. So I like seeing people in masks would scare me as a kid, so I want to make it as comfortable as I can for my students. I want them to feel like warm and welcome in our classroom, and like even if we have to wear masks, make it kind of like a fun like game out of it, make like a fun game out of washing your hands, out of like staying clean, just to make it fun for them, make them feel comfortable. Like that's my biggest goal this year, is to not let kids be scared or like nervous or anxious, because there's already too much of that going around, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I was gonna say, just so they know how important it is, like it's not a joke or anything, you know, make sure you sit them down, just be like, hey, like this is what's gonna happen, like let them know the procedures and what they need to do.
Julie,
she's crying.
Why are you crying?
Because of COVID. But yeah, just have like serious conversations with them, and obviously like have fun, but be serious as well, and then they'll understand, okay, like we can't just be joking around, you know, they need to be wearing their masks if they need to and things like that. So just have that balance in your classroom.
And I think we just like went on the longest like rant.
I know.
It's like one question.
There's just so much to say. So
that's all the questions that we have for today. We'll probably do more of these. Like maybe we can do one mid-year, like a mid-year
like an
check-in.
update one.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We can do like a mid-year mukbang, and so we can have you guys like send in questions, and we can answer them like how our first year is going, stuff like that. I think that'd be fun.
Love you. So yeah, thank you guys for listening, and yeah, it was really fun, even though we're full. It was
I'm like
worth it,
going into a food coma right now. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more like it. If you want to see Kathy in more of my videos, I'm sure she will be. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe down below so you don't miss any videos. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. Check, check.
But I'm a 5th grade teacher, a first-year teacher. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't know what to say.
Judy's like creeping in the back. The 19, I think all of that's going to be a huge. Are you kidding?